What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I am Christopher Beam with Tactical Advantage, and today we're going to talk about training for consistency or training for peak performance. Which is the better approach?
Wilderness Tactical has been around for longer than the gun you're carrying has been, and they have been making high-quality products for concealed carriers for literally decades. I wear their low pro belt every year. The webbing is the best in the industry, and I won't wear anything else. If you're looking for a good CCW belt, check them out.
So what's up, everybody? So really what I wanted to talk about today is how we're structuring our practice. Are we either structuring that for consistency of application or peak performance for whatever given metric? And the reason why I want to bring it up is this really something I try and think about too as it relates to mental management and performance of task or application of skill in the really real world. I think it's quite pervasive. What you see is people that are always practicing for peak performance, they see a dramatic fluctuation in their ability to apply said skill because they've never really found that gear that gets them where they want to go under pressure. That happens to everyone. It happens to me. It happens to every other high-level athlete or high-level practitioner out there. But I think there's some things you can do to try and get in front of that. So the first question we really need to ask ourselves, are we training for consistency or are we ego training? Well, what do I mean by ego training? So if we kind of frame it as practice. So your dry fire work, if your dry fire work is 100% of the time set up working on the timer, trying to beat a par that is at the 90th percentile or the very peak of your capability, you will eventually grow that capability. I think that's something that should be said. But the other thing you're teaching yourself how to do is being consistent. So if you think about your dry fire sessions, if you're constantly chasing the timer or constantly chasing a par time, I think you'll notice, especially if you do journaling work, it may be 40% of the time, it may be 60% of the time, it may be 70% of the time, who knows? But there will be a failure rate because you're never really practicing in your own skill territory. You're constantly trying to explore. And I kind of think about that as being an explorer or building a settlement. You can do both. So I think it's worth thinking about. So recently, I was at a class and I just had really erratic performance. Wasn't having mental issues or anything like that that would really impact my skill delivery. I was just really inconsistent. And I think really what bore that out was I have been practicing on the farthest reaches of my capability for quite some time without really working in the performance that I own category. So there was a learning opportunity for me. And I think this has probably happened for most people. You go somewhere, be it a competition, be it a class, be it somewhere where you have to prove your skill. And all of a sudden, you have this very erratic performance that's non-indicative of your skill capability. I think everyone can kind of agree that that's happened. So this is one of the things I try and apply to mental management as well, versus saying, hey, I do not possess enough skill. I say, why was that performance inconsistent compared to other things? Because once you really own a skill, for the most part, by and large, you own it and can perform to a reasonable expectation of that, as long as there aren't any other things influencing that. So when I came home, I started thinking about my dry fire work, and what I've been doing over the past couple months with my dry fire work is really trying to hone in on being the fastest at something, be that the fastest draw, the fastest reload, the quickest transitions, all of these things that bring you dopamine. You're fast and you can prove it and you can video it and put it online. However, I don't think that really lends itself to high level, consistent performance. So I have a challenge for everybody. As we talk through this, what I've implemented lately, and this is what I did a long time ago when I was really developing resilient skill reservoirs within myself, is at least once or twice a week, the timer goes away. I'm not chasing any time. I'm not chasing perfect form even. What I am chasing is a result that's very consistent. So let's say I'm doing draws. What I would do is pick a very finite target, and I would do a series of draws and count how many repetitions I can get before I require a correction or before I really require a major correction. And I'm logging that over time. And what that does, it helps me separate myself from the performance aspect and really focus on doing something correctly. So let's say we're just doing draws. I want to stay in frame, so I'll just be very close. I'll use maybe this right here, the X on the B8, and just not trying to go fast, just trying to see everything that's happening dead consistent. 2, is the dot dropping in the same way every time? 3, 4, and is it shaking at the end of the presentation? So you can see I'm not going artificially slow, but nor am I pushing. It's just simply performing the action in a consistent manner with a consistent result, training myself to understand what is right. And what I will do with that over the course of time is log it. So one day when you first start doing this, you might get 4, you might get 3 repetitions, you might get 20 repetitions. That's really irrelevant. What I like to do over the course of time, especially via journaling, is every time I'm doing this, be it twice a week, 3 times a week, it depends on your personal dry fire schedule, is I'm logging my consistent ability to perform, no matter my want to push or any of these things. Can I do this 20 times? And eventually what you'll notice is these numbers become higher and higher and higher. So now you've built a base on one side of your performance capability to be very consistent, and you still have the other side that says, hey, I can push to a higher level of performance whenever I see fit. And that's where you baseline things. Once you create another baseline, you take that new baseline and put it in the consistency ballpark or quotient or field, and then you work on it, and now it becomes a skill you own, not a skill you rent. So the other way that I see a lot of people practice and train, it's as fast as they can go all the time. And then on that one, especially, the dot was down over here versus right there. So is that a quality repetition? What am I training my brain to do when I'm doing that? Are you learning motor skills? Sure. But is that motor skill going to yield you the result you want? So I urge you to kind of think about this, approach it from 2 different angles. You cannot work at the very peak of your capability all the time and expect consistent results. You have to kind of break things down. I will not say slow them down, because I don't mean that for a second. But be in a situation where what you're focused on is the consistent repetition and consistent form, perfection, or as close to perfection as you can get. And then from time to time, pressure it, if that makes sense. So it's something I've found super helpful. It's something I'm finding very helpful right now. And it's really a lead into some other aspects of shooting that I think are very important from a mental approach that I'm going to be bringing to the channel here shortly. So with that, thank you guys very much. See you next time. Give it a try. Tell me how it works.